In today's Project Diary, I will teach you how to regrow supermarket ginger in containers. Hi and welcome to Project Diaries. Now today I want to start off by thanking all of you guys. I can't believe I've had 5,000 plus subscribers over the past few months, and thanks to you I've gone global. I'm almost speechless about how successful this channel is, and it's all down to you guys. And weirdly enough, my second most popular country other than England is India. So namaste to everybody there. So in theme with that, today I'm going to start growing some fresh ginger. Now I use this quite a lot in my cooking, and it is kind of simple to do, so I'm going to do it in containers today, and here's how to do it. Now ginger has been used as a herbal medicine in China and India for over 5,000 years. It's a rich antioxidant and has powerful anti-inflammatory properties. It can help reduce oxidative stress. It's good to relieve nausea and morning sickness. It can play a good role in weight loss by helping with digestion. It can relieve joint pain and osteoarthritis, as well as dramatically lowering blood sugar levels and improving heart disease risk. So I definitely recommend you trying to grow ginger at home and getting it in your diet as much as possible. But I'm going to be honest with you, I filmed the intro to this video years ago and I failed several times. Now I've been following lots of other YouTube tutorials, but they're either in warmer climates or they skip a lot of these points. So no matter where you're growing these, hopefully you can learn by my mistakes in today's video. Now obviously everyone was struggling through the global situation we have at the moment, but the UK is now struggling because of Brexit. I've really struggled to get fresh fruit and vegetables to do these experiments this year, and this is mainly down to the fact that we don't have enough foreign workers or lorry drivers, meaning that tons and tons of fresh fruit and vegetables are now rotting before they can get to supermarkets. Now I'd usually recommend getting organic for today's experiment, but it's really hard to get it, so I'm just going to use standard off-the-shelf supermarket ginger today. Now this isn't ideal, and I've been waiting over a month for them to restock, but I've finally got some here today. Now this isn't the healthiest looking ginger that I've seen. It looks really dehydrated. It's probably been waiting in customs for weeks if not months, and they most likely use a chemical spray to slow down the sprouting process, which means that's also going to hinder today's experiment. Now the Brexit delays have also increased food prices, so I'm definitely not going to buy a big piece like this, but you want to get these little sprouty bits here. These are called the eyes, and this is where the long green leafy stems are going to grow from. It's a bit like a potato, and if you want to learn how to grow potatoes in containers, you can check the link here. Now other people have stated you don't need eyes on your ginger piece, but I found the best results are when they have loads. Now we call this a ginger root, but it's not a root at all, it's actually a rhizome. This is the main trunk or stem. Branches will then sprout out above ground, and these small hair-like roots will then come out to get the nutrients from the soil. Now the bigger the piece, the better and faster results you will get, but I'm going to pick a medium to small piece today because I know a lot of people are struggling with budget at the moment, so I'm going to spend around £2 to £3. That's currently around $4. This seems like a fairly nice piece. As you can see, there's 3 different eyes on here. That should sprout nicely once it gets started. So let's buy this and take it back to the shed. Now this is a different piece. Now I want to show you what I've learned by making mistakes. So this part has been cut, and this is the eye that's going to sprout up. These other parts have also been cut and scabbed over nicely. It also feels a bit soft, so it's really dehydrated. Now I'm going to show you my mistakes. What I did is cut this part down here, and what I tried to do is get an eye on each piece, much like I did with the potatoes. But it didn't work. It's much better to keep a bigger piece as possible. So in order to rehydrate this bit of ginger, I thought of getting a Tupperware box and putting warm water in it. Now I'm using warm water just to liven it up a little bit, and you really want a lid, so I want to try and keep this heat in as well. Hopefully warm water is also going to remove some of that anti-sprouting chemical. Now I'm starting this in February, which makes it even more difficult, but I'm going to bring it inside. This is because ginger originated from Southeast Asia and is a subtropical country, so it's not going to bode well with the UK cold weather, and it's going to take a little bit more TLC and warmth than other plants. So I'm going to take this indoors where it's nice and warm and leave it on a sunny windowsill for 24 hours. So here we are 24 hours later. Just going to take the lid off and show you here. Now ginger is a herbaceous perennial, so it's going to give you more and more ginger every year if you get this right. But just giving you a close up, as you can see the skin is no longer wrinkly. There's a little root coming here. It's perfectly hydrated, and hopefully some of that anti-sprouting chemicals have now come off. Now at this point you don't really have to worry about what type of container you're growing in. I will explain why in the next segment, but all I'm going to do is just use a regular pot. As I said, these stems won't shoot. It will only be this eye that will shoot from this rhizome. So this is where I went wrong from the start. The piece didn't have enough eyes on it, so try and get as many as you can. I then followed another tutorial where they cut it into pieces, but this is also wrong. Cutting the rhizome into small pieces is reducing the energy within the plant, and this small piece here doesn't even have an eye, so it's not going to shoot. Now, as I said, you can use any container at this point, and I'm using a high quality peat-free potting mix. You definitely want to use that. This is going to give it a light and loosely draining soil and some well needed nutrients from the start. The other thing I did wrong here is you also want to allow the root to scab off again, so leave it out of the water for about an hour before planting it into the soil. This will allow the fleshy part without skin to scab off again and hopefully prevent the rhizome from rotting later on. Now, if you saw there, I just buried the ginger slightly under the soil, maybe about an inch. Again, unlike potatoes where you would bury them sort of between 6 and 8 inches, ginger only needs an inch or two. For the UK, I'd say bury it around 2 inches plus a mulch over the colder periods. But if you're in a warmer climate, you want to bury it enough so it doesn't dry out in the sun. So obviously I did exactly the same thing with the bigger rhizome, not the cut up pieces, and it worked really well. So let's move on. Now, watering advice is always tricky because this channel is global. But at the beginning you want to give it a really nice long deep soak. And then I'm going to keep coming back to it and monitoring, see how moist the soil is. As I said, you want a really nice well draining soil and you want to keep it warm and moist at all times. Overwatering will rot the rhizome and underwatering will stop it from growing. So as I'm going to bring this indoors, it will dry out with the heating, so it's good to monitor it to see if the soil is drying out, and you can always cover it with some cling film or something to keep the moisture and the heat in until you start to see the first sprout pushing through the soil. So let's take this indoors and see what happens. Now, every other tutorial that I've seen at this point does a huge jump, skips lots of parts and just shows you a plant that's already sprouting. And even the people that are growing this in the UK say that it gets to this point after around a month or two. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying it didn't happen for me. So this is where Project Diaries differs from any other channel. Now, I've watched nearly every other video on YouTube about growing ginger, and at this stage, at nearly 3 months, it should be around 2 foot according to everybody else. But this is what I've got today, and it's done nothing. Now, we've had a really incredible hot spring. We did have some cold weather through April and some snow, so I brought it inside. I made sure it didn't get overwatered when we had the rain. I've given this the most amount of TLC and love that I could possibly give one single bit of ginger, but it's done nothing. So I'm not going to give up. What I'm going to do is going to take it into the shed. We're going to have a look, see what's happening under the soil, see if it's rotted. But I'm not going to give up on this. Let's see what's happening under this soil. So here it is. It is actually growing a new piece of ginger there. As you can see at the front, that little bulbous part, that's the new ginger, which is called a node. But there's been no growth, as in the stems, no leafy greens. But there are a few roots and stuff here. So it is doing something. Whether this is to do with the anti-sprouting chemicals, I'm not sure. But it's definitely doing something, so I'm not going to give up. I'm going to put it back in the soil and see what happens in a couple of weeks. But I'm definitely going to try this experiment again once I'm able to get hold of some organic ginger, because it shouldn't be taking this long. So I started this project at the end of February and now we're just at the end of May. So within just around 3 months it's got to this stage. But as you can see now, because we're getting this earlier summer, there's a lot more growth in this 2-week period. There's a nice adventitious root system growing there. So lots of sunshine and lots of warmth to grow really good ginger. And here we are another 3 weeks later, and as you can see there's a really lovely root structure here, and it's finally got this green stem and some leaves. Look at this. It's made me so happy to grow this finally. But just like a small baby, we've now got to give it even more TLC and plant this in the perfect position so it can now grow more ginger. So now I've got it to this size, I want to take it out of the pot that I had originally and put it in a really long windowsill. Well, I'm gonna grow it under Grandad's windowsill. So basically this rhizome will then grow long ways, so it doesn't need a really deep pot because these roots will just be sort of on the surface, but the ginger itself will grow long ways. So I'm just going to grow it in this beautiful windowsill box that Grandad's got. So here's how I do it. So again, I'm using high quality peat-free growing mix, and I've made sure that this container has lots of drainage holes underneath. But the positioning of this container is key. So if you're in the UK, you want a south facing position so it can get sunlight and warmth all day long. And again, I'm going to bury this around 2 inches deep. But if you're in a really hot climate, you want to give this some partial shade so the sun doesn't burn the leaves. Plus, if you're growing them in other containers, you can move them around the garden accordingly, and then if they're getting too much heat, then you can bring them in a shadier place, and if they're not getting enough, you can put them on a patio or somewhere that gets lots of sun.
Now during the summer months you want to water this daily, you want to make sure the soil is moist and not drying out, but you also don't want it sitting around in pools of water because it will rot, and over the winter months you either want to mulch this container or dig it up and bring it into the shed.
So there you have it, that's how you grow ginger from a little bit of, well, fresh ginger. Oh my goodness, you have no idea how many times I've tried to do this, but this is the very first time I've actually got it to root and to sprout properly, and it's all basically down to patience and watering. Because England has so much rain, it was good to grow it in the shed to start with. That keeps the soil warm and it stops it from being bogged down from all the rain. And just to make sure, I mean, I was basically watering it maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, so it really doesn't need that much water at the beginning, and it takes up all the nutrients and the water that's actually in the original part of the ginger. I've loved this project. This one has been the one that I've really wanted to master, and I can't believe I finally did it. And the window box that I've now put it in, it's going to be sheltered from the wind, the rain and any frost, so hopefully I'm still going to be able to grow it over winter. Fingers crossed. I might do an update if we do well, but hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. So many people have asked me to do this and I'm so glad I finally did it. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy gardening everyone, take care of yourself. If you'd like to keep up to date on all of my future releases, click the subscribe button here. Here are some links to some of my other videos, and if you've tried this or any other project, I'd love to see your progress, so please join my Facebook gardening group where thousands of people are sharing photos and ideas daily. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.